Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to this Maryland Department of the Environment public informational hearing for the proposed Acers Infra LLC Cricket Stadium application number 25-NT-310/2025-60686. My name is William Seeger, and I'm Chief of the Waterway Construction Division at the Maryland Department of the Environment. Throughout my presentation, I'll just say the department. I will be the presiding official for this evening's public informational hearing. Attending the hearing with me from the department tonight is Amanda Sigolito, Chief of the Non-Tidal Wetlands Division, and Kevin Z, Project Manager for the Waterway Construction Division. The department appreciates both your interest and participation in this public comment process. If there is anyone who has not received the public hearing notice and you wish to be included as an interested party, please contact Kevin Z. It's on the slide on the screen here. Those individuals who are notified as part of the public notice process or requested to be an interested party or who have submitted written comments during the public comment period will be considered an interested party and placed on the interested party list. This list will be used to notify you of the department's final decision. And just for informational purposes, the formal hearing record on this project will remain open until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. It is the responsibility of my office to evaluate applications that propose impacts to non-tidal wetlands and waterways. The department's authority is found in subtitles 5 and 9 of the Environment article, and each application received through our regulatory program has specific and unique issues and impacts that must be considered in relation to weighing the potential benefits and detriments of the project. The department is neither a proponent nor opponent of any project. The logistics for this evening's hearings are as follows. First, I will make a few opening remarks about the purpose and public informational hearing and briefly list the proposed impacts. Next, I will call on the applicant or their representative for the applicant's statement regarding their project. After these required presentations, the department will facilitate public statements by first calling on any elected officials or their representatives to make a statement. I will then call on those of you who indicate you wish to speak. It is not necessary to read a statement to make it part of the official record. Written comments will be accepted and receive the same consideration as any oral statement tonight. In fact, for accuracy, if you have a letter to read into the record, I suggest you provide us with a copy of the letter. We do not permit cross-examination of the speakers during their presentations, but you may pose questions as part of your statement for our consideration in our permit evaluation. Tonight's hearing is being recorded, and the recording will be used to facilitate our final permit decision. The project tonight is applied for by Acers Infra LLC, and they're proposing to develop a site to an athletic stadium complex. The facility will be used for instruction, practice, and competition in the sport of cricket. Fill and grading within the 100-year non-tidal floodplain will be required to create the field and grading around the field. The project will permanently impact a total of 268,605 square feet or 6.17 acres of the 100-year non-tidal floodplain, and the project is located at 8400A East Patrick Street in Frederick. The department's conducting this evening's informational hearing pursuant to subsection 5-204 of the Environment article and Code of Maryland Regulations 26-17-04-13. The purpose of this public informational hearing is for the applicant to present an analysis of impacts that may be associated with the proposed activity, and I would like to emphasize that the purpose of this public informational hearing is to consider the application pending before the department. There may be a number of additional concerns related to issues that are beyond the scope of this particular hearing, and I would like the hearing to remain focused on the Wetlands and Waterways permit application pending before the department. And I got one more person to admit, sorry there. I'm sorry, I'm back. Would like to begin tonight's hearing with a presentation by the applicant. Please hold all public comments or statements until I ask for them later in the public hearing. I would now ask the applicant to present the proposed project. Will the presenter please introduce yourself and begin your presentation?
Good evening, Chris Mariga with Harris Mariga. We're the civil engineer and the planner for the project. As you can see, as Bill mentioned, Acers Infra LLC is the proposed owner of the cricket stadium. And Amanda, if you want to go ahead and hop to that last slide you're on, it is helpful. I think just for those of us that may not know exactly what a cricket oval or a cricket stadium looks like, this is an example from New Zealand, Hagley Oval. This is the type of field that we're proposing in this exact location, just south of 70. So as you can see, it's primarily the playing surface itself, some limited bleacher type seating, which you can see kind of has the cover to it. And then most of the seating then around the stadium as well is lawn seating. It would be bermed in this case, so you have a little bit of a view down to the field as you sit up a little bit higher. But this, to think about it as you ask any questions or as anything comes up, this is what we're trying to build in this location. So we can hop back to the second slide. I will mention that our entire team is with us this evening, which includes ownership, legal representation, environmental, engineering, both stormwater and floodplain experts. So if you have any questions about any of those topics, we can certainly try to get those answered for you this evening. What this first slide shows is just the proximity of the site. As I mentioned, south of Interstate 70 in Frederick, Maryland. It's a current driving range today. It's basically, equidistant from the Baltimore, Washington markets, as well as Northern Virginia. So it's kind of an ideal location to draw from multiple different geographic regions with easy access off of the highways, as we've shown. Next slide. So this is the shared vision. We've talked a little bit about this, and I probably should mention we are going through a rezoning process with the city right now as well. The property is currently zoned general commercial in the city of Frederick. The proposed zoning for part of the property, which we will show you, is institutional, which would allow for this cricket park to be built. And that's an ongoing process right now. So basically this facility that you just saw would be a year-round destination. It's going to be primarily the home field for the Washington Freedom. They've begun exploring other recreational and local teams that could also use the field as well to share in what's being created here. As mentioned, the Washington Freedom would host 10 to 15 Major League Cricket games just over a 2-week period. There's been various discussions about the amount of spectators. It's a new and growing sport, so it will probably likely grow over time, but we've planned for and accommodated up to 5,000 to 10,000 spectators in the oval, in the park that's being designed today. A part of what we will be doing as a commitment to the city of Frederick is to create a park along the Monocacy River. This would be something accessible not just to the patrons of the field, but also to the local community as well. So that's being incorporated into the project. There is a shared use path that the city and county actually would like to see extended along the Monocacy River that would be incorporated. And in terms of getting the project up and running and bringing people to the facility, there will be, as part of this grading, areas where we can have ADA, which is accessible parking, VIP parking, but most of the visitors would be coming in either through buses and getting dropped off from further destinations or local facilities nearby Frederick where we could pick people up and shuttle them in and out. Next slide, please. Okay, so this plan, what you see in the black line, is actually the property, the entire parcel that is being purchased by Acers. What's shown in green is the area where the grading would occur for the playing field. And the area, the light blue shading you see is the current 100-year floodplain that's on the property today. And that's mainly as you can see, it's along the river, parts of the river. And then there's a kind of a low point that runs up through the middle of the site, which is part of an active golf driving range today. Next slide. So this plan shows you in a little more detail the grading that's actually associated with the park. It's the circle kind of in the middle of the plan. In blue, you will see what is the current 100-year floodplain that would be filled in this scenario. And by fill, we'd be bringing dirt in or moving it around site, let's say, to bring the elevation of this field up to or above the 100-year floodplain, so that if there was any backwater that encroached onto the site, it wouldn't disturb the field and the seating around it. As Bill mentioned, it's 6.17 acres is what's shown here in blue that would be filled with this grading. Next slide. This is a hydraulic analysis that was done for the site, and the engineer that worked on it is on the call if you have specific questions associated with it. But basically, the model that FEMA developed to determine where the 100-year floodplain would be on this site is used by the consultant you create a model of the existing condition. You then go through, and the previous slide that showed the grading, that's incorporated into the model. And then you rerun the model to see what the impact would be on the river, on neighboring properties with that fill placed. What this shows in the blue line is the existing 100-year floodplain, and then in bright green would show you where the new floodplain would be based on the fill that occurs. So it basically ties out on the east and west side of the floodplain, and then where we stop our fill, it's cut off kind of in a north-south direction. But this is the model that's used. FEMA is currently reviewing that model. The hope there is that by showing that there's no impacts, there'd be a conditional letter of map revision that would be approved. That would allow us to place the fill. And then what happens is you come back later and you do a LOMAR, which is a letter of map revision. That's officially taking the property out of the floodplain by going out as building the fill that was placed and going back to FEMA and saying, okay, we've moved the dirt. Here's exactly where it is. And here's the new floodplain line. So that would be part of the process. I think the last slide is just the going back to the park itself. Yes. So that's the high level picture. This park you see here, this similar type design will be placed kind of in the middle of this property. The floodplain that's on the property today kind of would run up in this scenario would run up kind of to that pitch, which is in the middle of the property, but that would be filled in, and this would be what is built on the property. So with that, Bill, we turn it back to you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge any elected officials who are present here this evening. If you are an elected official or representing an elected official and wish to make a statement, please raise your virtual hand to be recognized. And the virtual hand is the hand at the bottom of the screen that you see here. And I didn't hear any dings of anyone raising their hand. So, all right. Now we'll call on members of the general public to speak. If you wish to make a statement, please, just like I said before, hit the virtual hand at the bottom of the screen. And when we call your name, we will unmute your microphone if you can't do it yourself. Hopefully you can, because I had microphone issues. Please start by clearly stating your name and any interest you may be representing. And in order that all persons wishing to speak may have an opportunity to do so, I appreciate you summarizing your statements and limiting longer than 3 minutes. And if you're representing a group or association, you can have 5 minutes. So anyone wishing to make hit the hand button at the bottom, and we will recognize you and allow you time.
I'm not able to raise my hand, but it's not letting me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that for everybody? And I couldn't see the mic moving. Who is this? I'm sorry.
My name is Laura Gibbs.
Ah, I see you down there. Yes. If you're unmuted now, and before you get into your statement, anyone else having the same issue? Has folks tried to hit the hand button and are not able to? I heard one go off. Was that somebody as well? Well,
looks like they're starting to show up. Yeah, Jack, Catherine, there's a couple.
Okay. Well, let me go with you first, Miss Gibbs, if you wouldn't mind saying your name, spelling your last name, and you will have 3 minutes after you do so.
Thank you, Mr. Siegler. My name is Laura Gibbs, Gibbs. I live in the Jugbridge Toll House that is right next to the planned project. I've lived there for 23 years. I have seen that meadow flood at least a dozen times, 4 times really badly. So I would like to understand how this new plan, I understand what you were just explaining about the floodplain not affecting the field, but how will that affect the surrounding homes? Where will that water go? The water that I've seen fill that meadow in the 23 years I've lived there, where will that water go once that field has been regraded? Also, I'm wondering if they would consider using something other than FEMA as there's an independent flood modeler I learned that the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments used called Fathom, who found higher risks than what FEMA found in their modeling. So they're responding to that in a cautious way, but I was hoping that we could consider using something other than FEMA just to give the community, sort of the surrounding homes, some reassurance that we won't be affected in a negative way by this project. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gibbs.
Thank you.
Since
Bill, do you want us to answer these kind of as we go, or?
No, we're going to do it as in the summary basis of decision document. So just note those as we are. Tonight isn't for answering, it's for listening. Even though I know you might be able to, that's not how we facilitate these hearings for the department. But since I'm not seeing the hands go up, if somebody else who was that you, Kevin, that you saw, you can see the hands raised?
Oh, yeah, so there are hands raised. There's Jack Day.
If you want to call the folks, I will write them down,
Right.
and I'll keep the timer. But
Sorry, I'm using my husband's computer. My name is Peter Brem. I live in District 3, which is where this project is. So a couple things. One is I looked up some United States Geologic Survey data, and to build upon what the prior speaker said, based upon that data, in the last, since 1990, I'm sorry, since 2008, there have been 5 flood events of 20 feet or more at routes Interstate 70 and 31 floods of 15 feet since in that time. And this survey also said 500-year floods have not yet been modeled. But so from a standpoint of 15 to 20 feet floods, it would be 36 times since 2008. Also, and Chris Smiriga, thank you for sharing the data you did with me. I asked a friend of mine who's involved with this, and his comment was that what we need to do is show the response below the bridge where the almost regularly inundated properties lie, and show that the high runoff from the filled cricket field area will not result in greater lateral inundation south of the bridge and flooding of the properties to the west of the river. His suggestion was, and this is his suggestion, they might still rerun the models with a range of Manning N values from the Google identified tables, but still focus on the properties below the bridge in the output. They definitely want to get water away from the cricket field, hotel, the academy, and any residential units, but they need to assess downriver property impacts with the enhanced runoff using the low Manning N coefficients. So I'm the honest reporter on this. I wouldn't know a Manning coefficient if it sat on me, but again, just some guidance from somebody who's active in that area. And that's it for my comments. Thank you.
thank you. Kevin, who's next?
Yep, we have Catherine Forrence.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, here are my comments. It's incorrect to say that the city has anything that the city council has not made any determination about this annexation amendment so far. So there's no way to determine what the city wants. Is saying, well, the city is fine with having this parkland, whatever. I want to point out that in the hearing in 2009, it was 10/5/2009. There was a proffer made by the land use attorney and who was representing the property owner at the time about this dedicated parkland. And so far, I encourage you to go to the 10/5/2009 hearing that the then Board of Aldermen had regarding this property, and the statements by the attorney at the time, Rand Weinberg, who said, the offer stands as part of the record. If the city wants it, the city will get it. And he's talking about the park. And this park is the 16 acres of floodplain that we're describing right now. And we're talking about filling in and grading. My question is, why isn't the city making this application? Because this parkland was dedicated to the city of Frederick, and we have a contract purchaser making a request to MDE with this permit, with the permit. So I just think it's out of order, and and I'll follow up. Yes, I encourage you to do some digging into that. And anyway, since there have been 43 moderate floods and 23 major floods at the Jug Bridge gauge since recording started in the 1800s. And so I have a few more minutes. At 2/13/26, Rand Weinberg said during this meeting that I was discussing, we put in all of our documentations that we will give the parkland. Perhaps a recommendation to the mayor and board would be to take the parkland that we've offered, and if appropriate at the site plan or development level, to expand it if necessary to accomplish intent, something like that. We anticipate maintenance being a part of it. I don't think that it's appropriate for the applicant to be asking for a grading permit for land that was dedicated to the city of Frederick, and the city of Frederick has made no determination yet about this annexation amendment, which this is a part of. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Boren. Who you got next, Kevin?
I believe that's, we got an Alan Schaefer.
I can't.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Schaefer, Frederick, Maryland. Thank you for the opportunity this evening. I guess from a public standpoint, it's a little bit confusing to understand what the state of Maryland plans to do in their review process. The documentation that's provided to the public about this applicant and this permit is woefully inadequate. There's a one-page, appears to be a table form that the state has available for the public to review online, and that in no way is sufficient to understand what factors you'll be considering in your review. So I would note that at the outset. Secondly, I believe that the state must consider the fact that we are in a time of significant change in the climate, and the state has incumbent upon the state to evaluate those increased risks of climate change and what that will mean for the frequency, the intensity, and the duration of future flood events in their evaluation of any current or future modeling and any kind of decision on this specific request. To do otherwise would be a complete injustice to the community there, and set up bad situations in the future, perhaps, by not understanding the fact that the Monocacy is likely to be carrying higher volumes of water more frequently in the future. Likewise, whatever decision is made tonight could have a substantial economic impact on adjacent homeowners downstream. In other words, if the floodplain is allowed to be filled in and we have a high flood event, that water is going to go somewhere. Is that somewhere now in a place where homeowners that did not have to have flood insurance previously would suddenly be under the guise of needing flood insurance because they now would be inside a floodplain? And the state must consider that as a collateral damage of any kind of decision that they might render here. I guess I think the other comment would be relevant to what happens to the highway structures down there from this floodplain activity. While you might say that's an SHA issue, if the state approves this permit and fills in this floodplain and directs large volumes of water further downstream, what might that do to the highway structures that are there, both the historic structures as well as the existing highway structure, the bridge over the Monocacy on Patrick Street Extended, known as Route 40. So that would be the extent of my comments, and again, appreciate the opportunity to make those tonight.
Thanks, Mr. Schaefer. And I'm going to break the no answer rule to let you know that because of the public interest with this project, we're going to make a project page on our MDE Wetlands and Waterways website and put the application information that we've received, all the information we've received on that website. And if I can figure out how to do it, I'm also going to include tonight's recording of the hearing. So we heard you on that one, and I've actually gotten some calls and emails about the very same issue. So so that you can have at least see the information that we've got in the file. We're going to put it on the website rather than require folks or mandate they submit a freedom of information request or anything of that nature. So thanks for that. And Kevin, who you got next?
We have Roberta. I think she's raising her hand.
Thank you. I urge you not to destroy the naturally existing floodplain on the current golf driving range. If you destroy this floodplain and build a cricket stadium in the bowl area, the water will just travel elsewhere. The likely places are the house on the adjoining property that is on the water and the currently existing natural resource area located behind Clearview Drive and Riverview Court. We know that water currently collects off of the river behind the houses on Riverview Court. Will this additional collection of water be enough to flood swimming pools and houses? The construction of the stadium will use the natural bowl to create the stadium. This means a berm will be built on the edges of the bowl and the seating will be enclosed by the berm. This will put the stadium at a higher elevation than the adjoining homes. A light rain would probably be absorbed in the berm. However, a heavy rainstorm would probably not be absorbed and will flood the yards and potentially the 4 homes on the adjoining properties. Finally, the grass comprising the stadium and the berm will be carefully tended to. Whatever chemicals and other ingredients are used to maintain this will find their way into the Monocacy River and further pollute the river. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huber. Kevin, what else you got?
I think that is everyone. I don't see a hand raised.
Well, let me give another call for that in case folks are having the same problem of not being able to raise your hand. If you haven't made a statement and wish to, just speak up and we'll be glad to recognize you.
I'm here with some people that aren't able to get through. How do you suggest I do that?
What do you mean not able to get through to the website?
No,
no,
they can't raise their hand on the phone, but they're signed in.
I've got no.
They dialed into the meeting on their phone, so they can't raise their hand.
I would be one of those people.
Okay, but are they able to speak up through the phone and be heard to make comments?
Can you hear
I
me?
just heard that last gentleman who was speaking.
That's right. Can you hear me?
I can.
Can I identify myself and speak?
Sure. Yeah, since I don't have a name, please state your name and yes.
My name is Vic Winkler. I live on Linganore Road in here. And my concern is that the environment, there is, I mean, if you have been in this area, if you have walked along that area of the Monocacy, There's a great deal of wildlife there. It is essentially in an undisturbed situation. And there are barrows along the banks of the Monocacy directly across from what is now the I-70 golf driving range. Deer, lots of small animals, and while the birds use this area, because it's a natural water source for them, the only one that is in existence during this last drought this year and last year. So my concern is about the impact on the natural wildlife in the area directly adjacent to the facility. And as one of the other speakers said, I'm concerned about the runoff from the fertilizer that you will most certainly use for the cricket field. I don't see any way around that. And locating this directly adjacent to the floodplain, I find to be a sleight of hand in terms of all the arguments that you make to support doing that. I find this, so, the combination of fertilizers, pesticides, and the location, the constraining of the banks of the Monocacy for a flood that, 100-year flood, we throw that term around. We all know that we see 100-year floods on a regular basis now, and you don't have to live past the age of 20 to see them. So this whole thing I find to be sleight of hand. I don't understand how the process got this far with the city in the driver's seat and supporting this out-of-state development effort. This team is not a Maryland team. The moneyed forces behind this team are not Marylanders. These are Northern Virginians, and they're going to import their Northern Virginia spectators into this area. They're not going to be spending any money here in the area. I know this is an environmental meeting, but that's just a plain fact. I don't see how this benefits anyone, and I see how it harms the natural environment. So what the hell? That's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Winkler. Anyone else on the phone who can speak and be heard? Or was Mr. Winkler it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me tell you where we go from here. The hearing record will remain open until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. And as I stated earlier, you don't have to make an oral statement today to make it part of the record. Kevin's information is on the slide that's up on the screen now, both email and phone number, or maybe not phone number. Let me look. Just email. I guess we're in an email world. But any public comments received during the public comment period will become part of the project file and will be considered by the department when rendering a decision on this application. The department's decision will be a final agency determination, and there will be no further opportunity for administrative review. Any person with standing who is either the applicant or has participated in the public participation process through the submission of written or oral comments may petition for judicial review in the circuit court. The petition for judicial review must be filed within 30 days of the publication of the permit decision. And the department appreciates your interest in this project and your attendance at tonight's hearing. And with that, this hearing is now adjourned. And